it's Liz Yuille from Old Staples Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again, and welcome back to the 13 Days of Halloween, or something like that. Today's project is one of these little cups, which I have got filled with some little sweets, creepy chews they're called. I'm sure there are other sweets out there that are, similar. This happens to take 6 of these particular sweets, and then just pop the little lid back on. But I thought these were really cute little cups. I know they're readily available in the US. You can get them in the UK. There's a slight oddity in that you can get them in packs of 50 for the cup, but only 100 for the lid. That's fine for me because I will be using lots of them between now and the end of the year. But they are available and they're not hugely expensive. So obviously you can make this a bigger project with some of the more readily available sizes which you can get in supermarkets. But I like the little cups. So this is using both the Spooky Cat and the Merry Cafe stamp sets. I've kind of thrown everything possibly Halloween-y at it, whilst keeping within the limitations of this small space. So let's get started. As ever, remember that all the dimensions will be on the blog post which is below. So jump on over there and have a look. I've got my template, having initially just taken one of the cups to pieces. I then drew round it and added a little bit on the end just so that there was a good overlap. And this is now my template. Obviously you can do it in any card you happen to have lying around that's a scrap. This was a piece of A4 very vanilla cardstock. I have already done 2 out of this, so I would say that out of 1 sheet of A4 you can get 4 cup covers. And obviously you could use it out of designer series paper instead, which I have done in the past. There is another video that I did of a similar project that used designer series paper, but this time I thought I would stamp on it. So yes, so 1 sheet of A4 should give you 4 covers, and I guess in the US you've got 8.5 by 11. That will probably also give you 4. So basic, grab a pencil, draw around your template. You could just use the cup that you've taken to pieces, but I just think it's easier. Having taken the cup to pieces, it was a little scrappy. So I have cut another sort of better template. It's not brilliant. It's still, a little wobbly at the edges, but it's working. So that's all that matters. So all you then have to do is cut it out. Now I'm trying to cut to the inside of the pencil marks because obviously I've drawn round a thing and then drawn round that thing again, so it is a little bit larger than I need it. That's fine, and I'll show you how I sort that out when it comes to putting it together. And I do work on the premise that the back will not be as neat as the front. But, there we go. So I have to say, for me, Halloween is a kind of newish thing. I'm of the generation where it wasn't really a thing in the UK. But I'm loving all the products. And I can't get enough of it, so I'm really enjoying doing my 13 days of Halloween. I thought I was going to run out of ideas, but they're coming. So that's all good. Right, so first thing I'm going to do is stamp the bottles and the rat. And I do have a trick for the bottles. It doesn't work for everything, but it works depending on how you do your bottles. It works, and you'll find out what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to stamp these as I go. I am deciding that this is going to be the end that wraps all the way round. So this end is going to be overlapped, by which I mean you've got a seam. So I'm going to stick this end down first and wrap. So this end will definitely be exposed. This end will be some of it will be overlapped. And what you can do, could you see that? Yes, you can. What you can do is just wrap it round, dry as it were, and just with a pencil just take a little, do a little mark so you do know where's overlapping, and we'll obviously rub that out before we finish. So I'm going to start, actually I'm going to start with the rat. So I'm going to come up slightly from the bottom because we will probably end up trimming the bottom off, just because of the way it goes together. So rat, bottles, rat, oops, smudge that a bit. It's much easier when you can get over, kind of put your head there, but never mind. Rat, bottles. So hopefully, if it works, we should end up with that running round, if you get my drift. So I'm not going to stamp anything there. So I do need the black again, but not for a while, so I'll cover that up for the moment, knowing my ability to put my hand in the wrong thing. So I'm now going to take the middle bottle, and I like to have that on a slightly bigger block than it really needs to be on. I like that to hold it, so I put it on the G block, G block, and then I'm going to use the Cajun Craze, which seems to have got some copper trim on it, but I'll avoid that bit, clean it up later, and then just line that up. And what I tend to do is I line up the bottom and then that middle bubble, and if you get those lined up, the rest should fall into place. And I kind of roll it, so I line up the bottom, and then roll it so that it's, I mean, they're not brilliantly lined up, but they're good enough. So this is where the trick comes. So I'm going to stamp both of the outside bottles in pumpkin pie. So because I'm going to stamp them both in the same colour, it strikes me that I might as well stamp them at the same time. So all I'm going to do is line them up on one of the stamped images. And again, I'm lining up the bottom and the top, the lowest of the bubbles, and then just line them up and stamp, and it just saves a step. Obviously, if you want your bottles to be different colours, you can stamp them separately, but I'm just going for not having too many colours for a change. I know I quite often throw masses of ink pads at the same project, but I'm trying to be a little frugal for you. So, what next? Okay, so this one again is a little bit of a trick. So I'm using the Witch's Brew with Scream and Sugar, and I don't know if you can see on here, it's actually slightly shaped, and that's because it's going to be, it's made to go on the Merry Cafe, which would be a rounded image, because there's this curve at the bottom here. So I don't want that because my curve is going the other way. So because it's photopolymer, you can actually just push the bottom as you're sticking it onto your block, which may not curve it so much, but it will at least straighten it out. So it kind of reduces the amount of wrongness. There's a better word, but it's you know, there are limits. There are limits to what my brain can cope with. So this, I'm just going to, again, I'm using the Cajun Craze, and I'm kind of doing it so that it's over the rat. And between the bubbles. So that's that, and then just to fill in the space, I'm going to take the spider's web, also from Merry Cafe, and my black again, and then just fill in the spaces that we've created. And you can kind of get it so that it's over the bottles. Right, so that's that. Whilst I am at it, and actually I should have done it while I was thinking about it, or earlier when I should have been thinking about it, another scrap of Very Vanilla, because we need to stamp our bottles again for the lid. Which would have been, actually, I'm going to do something slightly different for the lid this time. I'm going to do Eat at Your Own Risk and the rat. So I will use Cajun Craze again. And there's that. I think I might need to re-ink my Cajun Craze. I don't use it that often, but obviously because it's Halloween, I'm using it more than I would normally, so I think I might need to re-ink it. And then our little rat. And then I'm just going to punch that out, because I may then add something in. I'm using the 1 3/8 punch. So I think what I might do is pop that to one side and then come in again with our cobweb. Just on this edge here, which means I need a scrap of something. Scrap, post-it note will do. One post-it note. And then just fill out that edge. Yeah, like that. Apart from the fact my Cajun Craze needs re-inking. But you get the idea! And that's what matters. Right, where are we? 12 minutes and 37 seconds. Right, definitely. Oops. Getting your rat tucked away is always a good idea as well. Otherwise I'll forget that. Let's pop him back. Right. Okay, so moment of truth time. Whilst I remember, let's punch out in some pumpkin pie a 1.5 inch circle punch, circle with the punch. That will then go on there, but we'll come back to finish that off in a bit because we're going to need this to dry. Now, I have tried sticking this on with fast fuse, I've tried sticking it on with tape, I've tried pretty much everything. For me, it's my old friend again. I have found that because you want a little bit of slippage, that this is the best thing to stick it on with. You do run the risk of getting glue over your hand, but it rubs off, so that's all right. Does anyone remember good old Copydex? Is it still around? I remember we used to use Copydex for all sorts of things, and one of the fun things of using Copydex was that you could then rub it, and it would make weird sort of blobs, which as kids I remember was great fun. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm actually pushing this into that crease at the top, and then kind of holding it down as I go. But the main thing is, can you see that just about, is to get it into that crease at the top. And this is where you don't want to do what I've just done, but it does. You just rub your fingers together and it comes off. It's marvellous stuff. Don't then stick it on the front of your cup, of course. But yeah, just tuck it in. Just tuck that in as you go. And then you get to where you are overlapping. And this is the point where I would take my rubber and just rub my marks out that I've put on. In fact, I'd probably have done that before I did this whole thing, would be the sensible thing to have done. But when was I ever sensible? So there we are, we know it overlaps, so now we can pop a little bit of glue down the bit that's overlapping. Don't come too near to the edge because it will squish out, which is what it's now doing. So you want to kind of get that edge and just allow it to just squeeze out a wee bit, because when it's, ooh, if I get clean fingers, you can then just rub your finger down the edge and take that off. Comme ça. Right, just get that stick off again. Say, it just rubs off, it's brilliant. So now I will grab my scissors. I will find my scissors on my desk and grab them. Honest Gov, oh there they are, can't see them for looking, they're just by my side. So I'm just going to trim off, you can see it's just a little bit over the edge. So I'm just going to come in and trim that just by holding my scissors on the bottom of the cup, and you get a nice clean finish. So there we go. Now, depending on what your space is like, top or bottom, you can then bring in some of the Pick a Pattern washi tape and just trim up the bottom and the top if you want. And because this is one of the really narrow ones, it actually goes round the bottom of the cup quite easily, because it will, you can bend it a wee bit. Helps of course if you don't have it too high up at the start and then want it lower at the end, but it will work. There we go. And just pull that off, so that's that. And then we can do the same again at the top, just again gauge where you want that to sit. And you could use the arrows, there's an arrow one as well, but that will be a little bit trickier because it's a bit wider. It will go round, but you will have to smooth that down a bit as you go. Whereas this, as I say, because it's so narrow, kind of just goes with the bend without any problem at all. But it just dresses it up a wee bit. On the original I didn't put it on the bottom because everything was a little bit lower down. So that's our basic cup. And then for the lid, which I've got here, you'll see that the 1 3/8, sorry, 1 1.5 fits. Yeah, 1.5 fits snugly in that hole at the top. The problem is, certainly with these, is that it's lower that side than this, but I've got that one sorted too. So I'm going to take some metallic thread, and this is the black metallic thread, and just strip it off apparently. Take a length of that and just tuck it back into its little slit. These slits are not in the reel when they come, but I find it's an easier way of making sure that everything sticks together. And then this I'm going to stick between the two layers, so I just want some fast fuse. And I'll use a reasonable amount of fast fuse, and then just stick the end down, and then you can wrap it around your fingers, but I found that actually that was a bit too organised and I didn't want it quite so organised. I did that on the original, but it just, I don't know, it just looked too neat, and I don't want this to look neat. I want it to look a little scrappy because it's sort of spooky and cobwebby, and yeah. So I'm just adding loops. and then just make sure that your end is tucked away, and then you can move these around a bit, and then that all gets stuck. I'll just add a little bit onto that as well. That all gets stuck onto there, and then just decide which way, whether you're going to have it front and back or what. I'm going to have it front and back, so I'm going to put a bit of fast fuse at the bottom, and then a dimensional onto the mug or onto the lid, and then just pop that there, push it down, and that then ends up flat. Fill your cup with goodies, and then just pop your lid on. So there you are, 2 little Witch's Brew with Scream and Sugar cups, which I think for little gift holders for trick-or-treating it's a lovely thing to do. You could either do it for, a table decoration if you're having a dinner party over Halloween, or just have it for trick-or-treat, and you can put any sort of sweets in. I'm using wrapped sweets because I will be gifting to people that I don't know. But if you're giving them to family and friends, obviously you can use unwrapped sweets. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button, and remember that if you do subscribe, hit the little bell to get notifications of new projects as they post. That would be great. If you would like any of these products, it would be a great help to me if you were to shop on my online store. There's links to all the products below. That's only for the UK because I only operate in the UK, but it really does help me to bring all this madness and fun to you. So I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.